Hey, we're back for episode 2 of season 1 with On Ice with Ernest Skinner on TV. Glad to be back and talk greyhounds, and more greyhounds. Today's guest, some might know him, and others might not. So I will introduce him right now. There we go. That is my friend Chris. How do you pronounce your last name, Chris?
Szurzpatowski.
How about, let's go with something else.
How about just ski?
Ski, S-K-I? Okay, great, Chris Ski. All right, can you tell us a little bit about your...
I got to take this off just because.
I did
just
tell you before.
It's warm.
Yeah, absolutely. So I remember you told me we went to Saginaw one time, and I got the rundown on the story, but a lot of the viewers might not know. So let them know how you came to possess this.
Well, this is kind of a neat story in our family. It's my son was playing hockey at the time, and they always needed a goaltender. And I said, well, Dad used to play all the time, and I said, I'm going to need a mask. And I went out and bought one of these cheap street hockey masks that you would find, and I said I wanted it painted up in greyhound themes because it's greyhounds in my world, and I passed it along to a good friend, Spanky Robinson, which almost everybody knows is a color guy. Yeah, Lorne, yeah, and Spanky and I, we go back probably back in the 80s, so late in the last century, from back at Lake State where we went to school, and then we played a lot of hockey, and I knew he was very good with painting and stuff like that, and so I passed the mask off, and before too long, I found out it was just nowhere near the quality he was used to working with, and he's obviously done a few for the Hounds and other goaltenders along the, and unbeknownst to me, my wife Cindy connected up with him, and they actually went out, and she purchased a half-decent goal mask, and then something he was used to working with, and this is what the product was, a very unique, one of a kind. They actually toyed with a third jersey, which I have as well.
Actually, I think, don't mean to interrupt, Maddie has that dog on his. Is that from the third jersey? That dog?
Yeah. Okay. That was another jersey that actually went back to the late 90s when Jumbo Joe Thornton was here in his 1 year, and I always called it the Scooby-Doo on steroids. Yeah. And, it was to go with the theme of caricatures and cartoony kind of things. And the Sioux being such a vested franchise for so many years were not very good at going out of the box, as they say, and wanted the traditions. You don't mess with certain logos, and the Greyhound logo is probably one of the most recognized. And so, that died a slow death. I don't know if it was 2 to 3 years. Right. And anyway, but they actually had another one late in the, I guess it was mid-2000s, and it was a script Soo Greyhounds, and that's where Spanky got that theme, I'm sure, because it's very similar. Yeah. And the rest is history, and I have one of a kind, unique gold mask, and it was presented to me on Christmas Day. I don't remember what year, and to this day, I still maintain it's probably my best ever Christmas present because it's something I really, really like, and then the tradition of wearing it only during playoff games with the Greyhounds.
Yeah, we were talking about that on the ride over. I already asked you, but I'm going to ask you again. You don't have a name for this mask? Because when I called you a couple days ago just to confirm the date that we're doing the show, I mentioned you bring in your mask, and you said, yeah, you're sitting right in the truck beside me. I got you on Bluetooth, Ernie, and they sit right beside me. So does your wife ever get jealous of your relationship with the mask? Or?
No, she just she goes, why did you ruin that mask by putting a goal light on it? Okay, that's and that's exactly what she says all the time. She goes, and then almost everybody I survey says, oh, great idea. And how unique is that? A goal mask and a goal light, all tied together on one thing. And I had a good buddy at work, and we came up with fixing it up there, and then so I can obviously take it off to change batteries and everything. So fresh supply every year for the playoffs, and I think I've been running this, I think we're into a 6-year run now, consecutive playoffs, and I'm thinking this next year is going to get us there again. So we'll see it again in March and hopefully into April, and hey, May would sound good too.
Yeah, but did you use different, like when you turn on the mask, you have the horn going, right?
Right.
Did you try anything else, like maybe having Hound Power or something like that, or?
No, it's pretty well stocked with
Yeah.
whatever came with this, and it's actually, I guess people sell it for, for NHL rinks, and supposedly it, each goal sound is a unique sound to
Yeah.
an arena, but I can't, clarify if it actually does. I just, whatever, it's more the light. I did want a toy with getting a strobe effect, but then I thought we might
blind
cause
some of the fans in your section.
Yeah, the arena, the SR as it was, and now GFL, Memorial Gardens, which I'm happy about,
sure.
that name. I figured, well, we better not upset too many of the fans around me.
Unfortunately, yeah, you only can go so far, but no, I agree. So we're going to take a quick commercial break here, Chris, and we'll be back with more On Ice.
Let's go Greyhounds. Let's go Greyhounds. Let's go.
And we're back with On Ice with Ernest Skinner on TV, and my guest Chris Ski is my guest. And I was anticipating you bringing in your mask, so I had one made, and it's not quite as good as yours, but I'm gonna have to do a little bit of work on it, I think. So with that, Chris, moving forward with the Greyhounds this year and how young they are, we're off to 2-2, and this weekend, what did you think with London and the win at the big barn? 9,000 people in London for these young kids was fabulous. And then last night, Maddie kept us in Sarnia, and so what did you think of their play?
Yeah, I was really encouraged by. I didn't watch the Friday game in London, but I did. I was tuned in the whole game, and then I watched it last night on a subpar feed. Thank goodness for Jerry Liskman and his.
That feed was 2 nights in a row.
Yeah,
like that.
In this day and age, I'm almost curious how that can happen. But again, going back on those games and then reading up local reports, and then I always surf the out of town notes as well. I'm really encouraged by the style of hockey these kids play, and they seem to have already bought into the system that Coach Dean and then Jordan Smith and Coach Tardif have instilled, and they seem to attack the puck, always going, never really on their heels, other than they have to face the onslaught going into a foreign arena. But I've already coined a phrase to them: they're plucky. They just don't seem to, they bend but they don't break kind of thing, and they just respond and get back to the system. The coaches told us this is going to work. Yeah. So just stick with it, and and then with the goaltending, you mentioned Matty Villalta, and it was mentioned again, and I actually had a meme from last year, and we made Brick Walta.
Yes, I was gonna bring that up.
And it is. He just holds them in. He's steady, and one thing about experienced goaltending, it'll cover up a lot of deficiencies, especially of a young defense core and a young team that doesn't realize how. Some of these 18, 19-year-old players on opposition will attack the zone, and Matty Villalta obviously has the book on shooters after 2 years, and already he's into his 67th win in his career, and we're just 2 weeks into the season.
Has he hit 2 digits for losses yet? I think was he 11 losses or 10?
Yeah, and I don't even know if, he had, I think
playoffs.
Yeah, with the Saginaw loss, I think that was his double digit. Last night doesn't count against him. Yeah. In a shootout or a overtime situation, because he got us the big point. Yeah. And those points, when you go into opposition barns, especially against teams in the same division and conference, are huge when it comes down to it. Right. And he just shores up everything, and he plays with such confidence, and then the kids just pick it up. Okay, maybe we can take that extra offensive chance or something in the other zone, and Matty will be back there to bail us out. He just seems so cool under everything. He just seems nothing phases him, and he just had, like the Sarnia shooters, if you recall the interview after I think McGregor got the winning goal, says, the guy just stones us, but we know we can wear him down. Well, really, you don't know that you're going to wear him down, because he just ramps up his intensity, and I think that's a really good sign as the kids learn the system and be comfortable with it.
And I think that's a great thing too with having a solid goaltender like that. As somebody mentioned last night, I forget what I was reading, but as these young pups grow, because I mentioned in a written article on Dog Treats that there's no less than 15 kids on this team that are 6 feet tall. They're big kids, but they're not as strong yet. So they're kind of still learning their way. And so while that's happening, and for the next 10, 15, 20 games, while they adjust, bulk up, and get used to what's going to happen to them physically, Maddie's going to keep us in a lot of the games. So it was just amazing to see them win in London, because London's supposed to be, well, they were rated 2 in Canada.
Yeah, exactly.
So these kids are they're just buying into the systems, like we talked about in the ride over here. John Dean, Smith, and Tardif, I think that is going to be one of the biggest factors in our success this year. And you can see it on the bench. They're touching. He's like, good job, good job. And, when they called the timeout, some of the kids are coming over slow, and you see Smith, and get over here. Come on, we get over here. So there's a lot of intensity behind them, which is going to lead to intensity on the ice. We're going to take another commercial break, and we'll be back again with Chris Ski.
Let's go Greyhounds. Let's go Greyhounds. Let's go.
And we're back with On Ice with Ernest Skinner and my guest Chris Ski today. Chris, you were saying you wanted to bring up something about Maddie's statistics, going to 67th win, and
yeah, part of my thing with my fandom is I love tracking and then keeping in correlation to Greyhound goaltenders from the past and everything. And Maddie's fast tracking up the Greyhound leaderboard, and probably with the way we're starting this season, probably by Christmas he could be, or early into the new year, and then chances are we could lose him at Christmas for World Juniors. That is a distinct possibility, but he could go to number 2 all time on the Greyhound win list, and he can leapfrog over goalies like Brandon Halverson, who's just on the cusp, and in the next couple of weeks, and then you have Matty Murray, and then Johnny Van Beesbrook,
right,
and then all the way up to Kyle Gajewski. So at 67 wins, his next plateau is 74. And then the next couple are really bunched over. So it just shows you how prominent he is in the OHL in terms of goaltending, and just the record that he shared with Halverson last year, 40 wins in a season, is pretty remarkable.
And it's also remarkable minimum losses.
Yeah,
like it's like I said on the first episode of On Ice, you can when Maddie's in net, you can actually go to sleep, wake up in the third period near the end, and know that we're winning.
Yeah.
It's almost like what is his winning percentage is like 900 something. So
it's phenomenal.
It's phenomenal. So we're talking about we got some good news. Mac Hollowell is going to be joining the Soo again. He got returned from the Marlies, and that's just going to do leaps and bounds for this club, because they're going to have even more steady of a defense, but they're also going to have that scoring threat.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really glad to see Mac Hollowell come back to the lineup, and I kind of, I watch his play, with great interest, because defensemen were always my thing to key on. Mm-hmm. Everybody likes the flashy goal scorers and everything, but somebody that settles things down, and the way they move the puck, and then obviously we had Rasmus Sandin, and you just watch that poise. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure a goalie, between Johnson and Villalta, when they know Max out there, and even Jordan Sandbrook here in the second year, it's just boom. They have the puck on their stick. Okay, chances are I'm not going to be fishing one from behind me. Because they're going to move it up. They're going to make the safe play. They're going to outlet it to a rushing center or a forward. It's going to be a good play. And even though Mac doesn't have a huge body weight and everything, he's tenacious on the man in front of the net. And you can't score. When you got a guy that knows the game, and obviously going up to the pro camp is going to really have helped him. And I think we're going to see a new style of defense, and these kids are going to play confident when Mac's out there, and then you also have the veteran leadership.
Well, you'll have 2 lines, and no disrespect to any of the other kids, but 2 lines of all-star defensemen. In whatever he's going to do with Sandbrook, but you could have that, Sandbrook on one line, and you can have Hollowell on the other line. So you have that extra poise part of your nucleus. And Sandin, there's even we still don't know, and we might not know for many weeks. But if he returns,
Yeah. Then all of a sudden, this goes from a team that maybe is thought to be a bubble team. I haven't thought that. I thought, geez, I don't know why we can't challenge for a West title again. Okay, lots of people want to give London the other one, but I don't see with that, with the leadership and the returning players we have, why can't we challenge for that West title again? And Sandine would definitely help in that mix. And it's a matter of time. Toronto's holding the cards and everything, but if they want to move him back to give him that prime 35 minutes of ice that he will get here, and all the crucial situations will benefit, and so will Rasmus, and he can start his pro career maybe next year.
Yeah, that would be, as much as we wish the best for these kids, we are selfish. We want to see our players win.
Totally.
But we'll be right back. We're having a commercial break, and I'll be right back with my guest, Chris Ski.
Let's go Greyhounds. Let's go Greyhounds. Let's go.
And we're back once again with On Ice with Ernest Skinner on TV, and my guest, Chris Ski. Chris, I should have asked you earlier when we were talking about your mask. I understand you have a room at home.
Actually, I have 2 rooms and a large spillover into what I call the man cave, or where I keep a lot of my hound stuff.
Right.
And only to do that is to keep my wife happy, because the stuff starts trickling back and forth.
Did you hear that, Cindy?
It trickles back and forth into the house, and then it might be a little slow returning to its place in there. And I'm always worried that, I'm tired of this stuff and can't find it anymore. So it's a lot safer in the man cave.
So you have 2 rooms. So you've been collecting for, how many years have you been not necessarily a season ticket holder, but a Greyhound fan?
Well, when they came into the OHL, it used to be the OHA, and then it became the OHL. So I was right from 1972, and I still remember the likes of Kerry Chiverelli and Billy Thompson, goaltender, who's still around, and we've had his son here, and Bruce O'Grady, which is an interesting segue, if I can do that, is because we just had Morgan Frost move up on the career points list, and Bruce O'Grady was here from 1972-75 and had a career of 203 points, and Morgan just vaulted over him along with Brian Galazzi, who's Crown Attorney here in the Soo, and he was up on that list. They were actually tied, and so we have Morgan Frost moving up, and I just love keeping track of where they stand in in hound history, and a lot of the stuff isn't available on internet because nobody kept track of that stuff.
Microfiche.
Yeah, well, it's there, and I always said I'd love to sit there and try to fill some of the holes from the 70s. I have recollections of games. I have ticket stubs and stuff. I don't have near the articles, but there's a lot of interesting stuff that transpired early in this franchise that some of our newer fans might not be aware of. They've heard the names, obviously, the Gretzkys and the Hartsburgs and the Mike Kazicki, who was a personal favorite of mine, from the mid-70s. But, there's some nice accomplishments that a lot of people probably are not aware of. And I like to always correlate that to where we stand now with current players that might have hit some of those targets that other hound players had already achieved. So it's kind of fun for me, and that's where the hobby actually started.
So how much time does this take up? Because I know from the Facebook fan page, every day you post something. It's either a picture of a newspaper clipping or something related to the hounds. On this day in 1879, this happened. So how much do you get up, and is that the first thing you do in the morning? Is breakfast, and what happened here? I'm gonna look at my books.
Well, it's funny because I'm an early bird anyway, so I'm up at 5. So I have a little bit of buffer time prior to going to work at 8, and I've generally already figured out something that that I can remember. So last year was very, very easy because it was the 25th anniversary of the Soo's Memorial Cup from 1993. So I had that file ready. So it was just a simple thing of going on this date in Soo Greyhound history from 1992-93. such and such happened, and I actually literally followed through every game of the season, all the way through the playoffs, right down into the Memorial Cup, the Super Series, and everything, and it got lots of traction from a lot of the fans and everything. And then there's always milestones that I'm really cognitive of, like the 33-0 season from 1984-85,
Right.
because I was, it was in those days when I really let my fandom start.
Fandom.
And that, yeah.
Is that your
or
you coined that
fandom or,
yourself,
or fandemonium? Yeah, I called it fandom.
just like Brick Walta?
Yeah, like Brick Walta as well, and I remember actually going down to the old Sioux Memorial Gardens, and it was probably January when the Hounds already had knocked off, a 15 or 20 game winning streak, and
Right.
I came up with the idea, hey, how far can this go? Put a big banner up there, and it was just rolls of newsprint and crossing out the wins. And lots of time people, as the city actually embraced that,
Right.
and it was exciting. And local media, obviously, then out of town media. Oh boy,
Yeah.
well,
Especially when Wayne's team was here. So
Oh yeah, exactly.
not Wayne's team, but
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, because so many great teams and players were here before, and they had never achieved this, and all of a sudden, and here we are, all these years later, that record still has not been broken, and
Right.
whether it will be, in the foreseeable future, nobody can really comment. But it's
Yeah.
pretty amazing from 1985 that we've had a run that long, and we've had some close calls, the Londons and everything.
Yeah.
It's much like what I think in football. I guess it's the Miami Dolphins, and the players. And I'm trying to think what year it was. It might have been '72 or somewhere in there. They went undefeated,
Right,
and
right.
as teams come close, then they celebrate. Teammates come back and they break champagne out
Right,
to
right.
celebrate a team losing, so their streak is intact. Well, I kind of look at the Soo Greyhound one, even though I'm not really invested in it.
Yeah.
I go, I'd like to see that go on for as long as I'm around. How's
tell
that?
you, it's I've been season ticket either holder or been going to the games for probably about 30 years, and I tell you, it's just amazing. And the older I get, the more I realize it's not all about the winning. It's about just the whole aspect with the team and the community and all that. It's just great. So
Yeah, no, that the experience of being in the stands,
Right.
and what am I going to see tonight? And that can be supplied by the opposition, and many times,
Yep.
I can remember some absolutely bone-crushing hits by players, but
Yeah.
actually devastating losses. We mentioned Jordan Smith, and probably the state. I remember 2005 losing to Windsor in the playoffs,
Yeah.
and that's one of the biggest ones I remember.
I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take another commercial break, and we'll be right back with Chris Ski.
Let's go, Greyhounds. Let's go, Greyhounds. Let's go.
We're back with On Ice with Ernest Skinner and my guest Chris Ski. And I was just telling Chris, it's kind of interesting. My throat is dry, and Chris has been doing all the talking, right, Chris?
That's right. Yeah.
But you love your Greyhounds, so you're going to talk.
Totally.
Talk,
I could talk about them forever, it seems.
and I can listen. You're like, well, you are an encyclopedia.
I appreciate that.
Not a problem. So we're going to be, the team is going to be settled in probably in the next, I'd say, 3 weeks, maybe at the most. But we're still waiting and hearing what's happening with Mr. Hayton, who would be dynamic when returned. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are, how this team is going to adjust when he gets back, and what he'll bring back.
Yeah, I much like everybody else in the Soo, we'd like to see Hayton back, and he would change the dynamic of this team, take a lot of pressure off Morgan Frost and Keegan Howdeshell. You could put a really good power play together, and he wins face-offs, being such a good player and everything. And if he's here, the lineup solidifies, and I could see them not only well making the playoffs, but challenging for home ice, which would be huge for a young team opening up at home, and you get a more preferential matchup, and then perhaps who knows?
You know what? Even Kyle can make a trade or two.
Exactly.
Getting him back, you're going to have the team's going to have 3 or 4 solid all-stars on it. So, you know what? We can do a lot when we get Barrett back, and hopefully we get Barrett back and nothing happens. But you never know in junior hockey.
Exactly.
So, anyways, I thank you for being my guest
It's my
today,
pleasure.
Chris. And Thursdays, Dog Treats. Check out Dog Treats. I'm going to be introducing my following week's guests in Dog Treats, and that's at SooLonline.com. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.